Yes, we do have a chairs meeting at 4:15.
The same.
And we are going live.
That's the same one every week, same code, I think.
I don't know the answer to that. You may want to talk to Carolyn.
I think it is.
So,
yeah.
Alex, we are live. Is that correct?
We are live. You are correct, Mr. Chair.
Always better to be live than dead, as they say. Good afternoon again, everybody. This is the Vermont State Senate Committee on Institutions. Today being February 15th. We are continuing our conversations, walking our way through the capital budget conversation. And at the moment, we are about to talk about Section 12, Public Safety, the Pittsford Feasibility Study at the Vermont Police Academy. We are joined now by Michael DeRushy. I'm saying DeRushy because I know people with that spelling that pronounce it.
DeRoche.
Is it DeRoche or DeRochers or DeRushy?
I do it DeRocher, but I had a lot of relatives up in St. Johnsbury, and up there it was DeRushy, so I'm good.
Well, is Bob DeRushy a relation?
No,
He
sir.
used to own a couple of gas stations here before he moved away.
No,
What
sir.
about Rio DeRushy up here in Newport, Derby?
No, Armin, Dot, Francis, Rachel, and all of them out of St. Johnsbury.
Yep.
My uncle used to work at the Fairbanks Museum there in St. Johnsbury.
Ask them who their senator was. They probably don't all know who they are, who the senator is.
Yeah, Michael, the humor gets worse as we get later in the afternoon, so apologies. Welcome to Senate Institutions. I don't know that you were here earlier, but I do try to keep the conversation at the ground floor level for everybody who may be watching as a YouTube audience member. I'm surprised, absolutely shocked to hear some of the people who are out there watching us, including apparently our former pro tem. So as I will joke with him later on, we really need to keep the conversation simple so everybody's on the same page. But if I happen to interrupt your testimony, it's not because I'm trying to be rude. I'm trying to make sure we are allowing anybody who may be watching and is totally unfamiliar with this process or who you are about and how you fit into the picture. I just try to back up the train a little bit and say, can you explain X, Y, or Z? Having said all of that, the floor is yours, and welcome back to Senate Institutions.
Thank you very much, sir. For the record, my name is Mike DeRocher. I'm the Executive Director for the Division of Fire Safety. And just to give a 1 minute quick background here for clarity, back in 2015, the legislature created a governance committee that oversees the certain aspects of how the training facility in Pittsford operates. So we cover access, we're responsible for access and use issues, capital expenditures, contracts, and importantly, communication out of the training facility so that we have a single voice that comes up here to all of you folks so that you get a single voice on matters of importance down there at the training facility. I chair that governance committee. Thus, that's why I'm here today. This is a capital expenditure request, and I chair the governance committee. And so I can speak to the line item if there's no questions at this point.
I don't see any hands raised, Michael, so
Okay.
Please proceed.
All right, so this funding is actually kind of broken down into two parts. One part is a feasibility study for the shooting range down at the training facility. We have some ice buildup on the shooting pad, which is a trip and fall hazard. And obviously with the discharging of firearms down there, we need to fix this ice issue. It might seem like it's fairly easy, but because of the amount of lead vapor that is given off in the right in that shooting range vicinity, There needs to be there's engineering study that will have to be done in order to make sure the fix that we're making is not inadvertently impacting the shooters in a negative way from a health perspective. So that's part of that funding. The other part is to do a feasibility study. There are inherent issues with the training facility down in Pittsford. We have some electrical issues, heating and ventilation issues. There's some structural issues in the main building, and some other infrastructure related deficiencies. And so the purpose of this feasibility study will be, how do we best move forward now to secure any additional funding in the future through the capital budget process. So we're just trying to make sure that we get all the users together and present a request that makes economic sense and takes advantage of how the training facility is used today and how it might look 5 years or 10 years down the road. So basically, we don't want to waste the taxpayers' money. We did secure about 1.8 million for the East Cottage. That project is now complete. We have 24 added sleeping rooms down there. And I would like to thank the committees here for supporting that through the process a couple of years ago. That's very important for us down there. We can bring more training down to that facility, and additionally, we can use that dorm as needed swing space should we get into the main building in the West Cottage for renovations moving forward. So that's kind of a quick high-level overview. You know, the leadership down there has changed some down at the training facility, and over the past 2 years, due to the pandemic, some of our curriculum obviously has been stood up online. There's just been some changes, and we want to make sure moving forward that all the users of that facility get together and we come up with a solid plan with working through an architect to document this stuff. So that's kind of the high level overview.
So you need to do some planning, Mary.
Correct.
Uh-oh. You got enough money for that? Because it usually is a lot more than what we'd anticipated.
Right. This is for the main building and the West Cottage is what we call it. I don't know what it's going to look like at the end of the day. That's kind of working with BGS. That was the figure that was put out there. So I can't speak to any more than that was felt that was adequate to do the feasibility study.
Okay. Committee questions, comments? Mike, I sort of cut you off there, but I don't know if you had anything else you'd like to tell us.
No, I do want to mention that you know, back from 2015 to now, there's been a lot of work down there we actually have done a very good job on trying to get a single voice out of the training facility down there. So when we come up and do this type of testimony here, you're not going to hear a lot of mixed messages coming out of the training center. So, you know, I do appreciate the fact that I've had the opportunity to testify in front of this committee. It's important for us. All we're trying to do is get the training facility to meet the training needs of today and do it in a safe and healthy environment. That's what we're trying to do. So this will be the first step in trying to get something on paper where we can, if we're going to renovate the main building, this will be the best use. This will take into consideration the curriculum, all the different trainings that take place down there now, and it'll be a good discussion. Or we feel it'll be a good discussion to hammer out down there.
Okay, as you know, the capital bill, which is our main vehicle for and reason for being in operation, is still over on the House side. They may do some tweaking with it. And if they happen to tweak it in a way that causes you some concern, feel free to reach out and we'll have some more conversation on our side of the building when it gets here. With that, I will thank you very much for coming to join us this afternoon. I'm sure we'll see you again.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody.
You as
too.
well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Committee, we're going to shift gears and talk about a joint resolution which would authorize the Commissioner of Forest, Parks and Recreation to exchange quitclaim deeds with the Vermont Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy in order to confirm the boundary between the Long Trail State Forest and the land owned by the Vermont Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy in the towns of Eden and Belvedere. I do believe we have heard a little bit about this already from the commissioner, but we are here now with Michael Chernick, Ledge Counsel, to do a walkthrough of the resolution and have some committee discussion. In fairness, I don't think we should vote on it today because we didn't list it as a possibility of us voting. So we'll schedule the official vote for another day. But Michael Chernick, welcome to Senate Institutions. A couple of things, Michael, just so you know, or haven't figured that out, your clock is different than mine. But maybe I'm looking at you backwards. What time have you got?
Good afternoon, Senator. This is Michael Chernick, Legislative Counsel, speaking from my office. You are correct. For some reason that I have never figured out, when individuals look at my clock via Zoom, it looks backwards. Indeed, it is saying 2:58.
Okay, it looks like a couple minutes past 9 o'clock. And I figured it was right at least twice a day, but
no, it's
that's
correct. And
okay.
apparently Zoom gives a reverse illustration, and I don't know why.
Oh, I'm going to keep that in mind for future conversations. Now I know whether people are looking at me backwards or right side up. I don't know that you've heard my little speech before, but we have a lot of people that may be looking at us on YouTube. So I try to keep the conversation as simple and plain as possible because we just don't know who's out there that may be listening to a committee process for the first time, have no idea what a quitclaim deed is or anything of that nature. And while you and I may know all about that stuff, our listeners may not. So if you and I are talking and all of a sudden it red flags in my eyes, the possibility that somebody out there may not know what we're talking about, I may interrupt your testimony and ask you to explain X, Y, or Z. It's not to be rude. It's just to try to keep everybody on the same playing field. So welcome to Senate Institutions.
I understand, Senator, these are different circumstances than when I would be in the committee. And there are maybe many more persons out there than would normally be listening to this rather limited interest conversation.
You would be really interested to know who some of them are. The other thing is that Senator Parent usually has his baby on his lap. It's because he's found that this committee happens to be the best committee to put his child to sleep for whatever that
It works very well.
So, welcome. We have a resolution to discuss.
You certainly do, Senators, and good afternoon. Again, this is Michael Chernick, Legislative Counsel. As a quick background for everyone, nearly every year, I believe not last year in the midst of the pandemic, but nearly every year, the Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation comes to the General Assembly with a variety of land transfer, sales, leases, etc., requests that it wants to execute pursuant to its statutory authority under Title 10, Section 2606B, subsection B. This year, there's only one. Many years there are 3 or 4, but compared to other years, I thought this is probably one of the simpler ones. There aren't millions of dollars involved. There aren't large ski areas involved this year, or ancient stories from 50 or 100 years ago, which, as you're aware, have occurred some years. This year, we are dealing with the boundary between a section of state forest land known as the Long Trail State Forest in the towns of Eden and Belvedere in Lamoille County, and land that is owned by the Nature Conservancy and the Vermont Land Trust. And over the years, as I will be reciting in this relatively short resolution, there has been a question as to where the state and the nonprofits border really is. And what this involves, of course, would be an exchange of quitclaim deeds. In other words, there are deeds that are exchanged to indicate here is the real line. It's an XYZ point or YZB point at another point along the boundary. It makes it really clear where the boundary is. And so the resolution provides as follows, starting from the top. It's a joint resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Forests, Parks, and Recreation to exchange quitclaim deeds with the Vermont Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy in order to confirm the boundary between the Long Trail State Forest. That explains why. Between the Long Trail State, I can read from the screen. Between the Long Trail State Forest and the land co-owned by the Vermont Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy in the towns of Eden and Belvedere. Whereas the Department of Forests, Parks, and Recreation, the department owns and manages certain lands in the towns of Eden and Belvedere, which, as I indicated, are in Lamoille County, known as the Long Trail State Forest. As an aside, so known because the Long Trail goes across some of that land. That abuts lands co-owned by the Vermont Land Trust, VLT, and the Nature Conservancy, TNC. And whereas approximately 3.5 miles of the common boundary between the Long Trail State Forest and the lands that VLT and TNC co-own is uncertain as to its location on the ground and in existing deeds. And whereas the department and VLT and one moment here, I'm having a slight technical issue. And whereas the department and VLT and TNC have reached an agreement to confirm and locate the shared common boundaries through the exchange of quitclaim deeds and a survey of the boundary to be recorded in the land records of the towns of Eden and Belvedere, which would be normal that there'd be a survey and a recordation. And whereas 10 VSA section 260B, 2606 subsection B, which means of the Vermont statutes annotated, authorizes the Commissioner of Forests, Parks, and Recreation to sell, convey, exchange, or lease land or an interest in land, or to amend deeds, leases, and easement interests under his or her jurisdiction with the approval of the General Assembly. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly authorizes the Commissioner of Forests, Parks, and Recreation to exchange quitclaim deeds with the Vermont Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy in order to confirm the boundary between the Long Trail State Forest and the lands co-owned by the Vermont Land Trust and the Nature Conservancy in the towns of Eden and Belvedere. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Commissioner of Forests, Parks, and Recreation, the Vermont Land Trust, and the Nature Conservancy. End of resolution.
Committee, any questions? All right, how many of you committee members can tell me the difference between a quitclaim deed and a warranty deed? Ruh-roh.
Property 101.
Warranty deed is defended at all costs. And a quitclaim deed is usually between two parties. And where they have agreed to defend it between them.
Well, I'm gonna give you maybe a B minus on there.
Yeah,
So
but-
Michael Kernick, correct me if I'm wrong, because this takes me back to my first days in law school, which is
Ditto for me.
38 years ago. But my recollection was always that a warranty deed makes promises between two people that are enforceable in many different ways. Whereas a quitclaim deed basically has both sides throwing up their hands and saying, we don't actually know but we're going to agree to this agreement and move forward. And nobody's going to get really upset and sue each other as a result if they find
I
some
thought
kind
I
of.
said that, but maybe not.
Basically, that's what it is, Senator. It's a quit claim deed. The parties state this is what it is. And caveat emptor, we know what you're saying. Warranty deed comes with many more protections.
Bank
Very
will
good.
Bank will charge you $300 for that.
Depends on how many hours it took me to write it.
I was only at 150.
Yeah, right.
All right, Michael, thank you very much for that basic walkthrough. We didn't put down we were going to vote on this. I had no idea whether anybody would actually want to come in and testify, so we've left that part of it open. And we're going to reschedule this to have a formal vote on it in case somebody wants to come in and make a comment. One of the potential issues could be some property owner along that section saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm involved in this conversation. And then all of a sudden they would pop up on our screen as a potential witness. So unless committee has any other questions for Michael, we're going to let Michael go.
Yeah, I just want to say,
Oh,
Michael, I miss you. I miss being in the State House.
well, I'm sure you all do, and I'm sure I know many of you are anticipating that will change in the weeks ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Don't forget to fix your clock.
Thank you, Senators. Good afternoon.
We'll see you again. Committee, that's all we've got for the afternoon. And I guess we're going to